Hello. If you're just chiming in, we're just getting ready to start the junior parent and guardian night. Hopefully, you have something to write with. Hopefully, your junior is with you if they are in the house. It'd be worth it for them to hear this information as well. But if not, we're hoping this will resonate with kind of plans going forward. We'll get started here in just a few minutes and share some information about juniors. Hello, and welcome to Junior Parent Night. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. So as you're getting settled, if you have something to write with, it might help. We will post this presentation on our school website as well as our Canvas pages and make it accessible to all families. And there will be a recording of tonight's video presentation. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Hi, welcome to Junior Parent Night. So I'm back again. My name is Barb Lehman. I am one of the counselors at the park. I am joined tonight with Heather Donzilla, Mark Hausen, and Sarah Budziak. They are our junior representatives and our counselors that handle our junior class and get us all arranged and set up to meet with our juniors in the coming weeks. I'm hoping that tonight's information is really helpful for you, gives you a lot of insight as we travel from now through graduation, knowing that we will continue to inform and educate you as you move through with your soon-to-be senior, but we want to make sure that we can get this started and kind of get on that pathway now. So let's get started with where we're at. So one thing, these are the areas that we're going to cover tonight. We're going to review a timeline for your juniors into that senior year. We think that's valuable for them. Want to make sure that that gives us an opportunity to kind of just inform you as well. We want to provide you with some tips and resources for students and families to use while exploring secondary options. There are a lot of opportunities for our students, not only with college and career planning, but also military, job workforce, all kinds of opportunities for them in the coming years. We also want to supply you with an overview of the college application process. While this is not pending or right on your mind right now, we know that it does become a part of your process as the kids move to summer. Summer is where they start to begin to think about that as they look to that senior year. And we want to make sure we go over that process together. And we're also going to talk about our parchment responsibilities and how the kids get access to their transcripts. Many of our students have already been asking for them. There's a lot of other opportunities where their transcripts are needed, but we want to go over that so that you are also aware. This is a process our kids use not only now in high school, but will be something they'll access throughout their time in the workforce when they might need a transcript in 4 or 5 years from now, and how they get access to that. So let's talk about first their junior year and the timeline. What should we be focusing on? Where should our energy be at? And what should we be doing right now? So course selection completed last week. We are meeting with 9th and 10th graders tomorrow. We're doing a last check on their stuff of what they've entered, making sure that they're all accurate. But it's the juniors that we'll be working with in the coming weeks. So a lot of the juniors did complete their course selection. They filled in their 6 credits. They did need to require or did need to fill in 6 full credits at the park, even if they consider doing dual enrollment or an online class or Michigan Virtual. We want to make sure they first have 6 credits here at the park. When we meet with them in junior conferences, which begin on March 10th, they'll go the 2 weeks as we move to spring break. That meeting is a great opportunity for the counselor to sit one-on-one with your student, have a conversation about what do they see themselves doing in the future. Excuse me. Some kids may have an idea. Some kids may be struggling to kind of figure out and focus into that. I will say that's probably one of my favorite conversations I get to have with the kids, because it's really about what do you like? What do you like to do? How do you like to learn? What's your personality traits with that? And how can we make it kind of all fit together? I love that puzzle piece where we start to put things together for them and kind of give them a direction to follow. That direction clearly could change, but that conversation is key. So we really want you to encourage and make sure the kids are watching for that schedule. Some of the schools have emailed that out already or posting it on Canvas. It'll be out by at least by Thursday when we have our first meeting with the kids. But that will be important for them to make sure they got on their schedule. Teachers will also be aware, and they just need to show that schedule to their teacher to make sure they come down to their counseling meeting. That's an important part because, again, in that meeting, one thing we'll do is we'll make sure their course selection is correct, that it not only meets what their goals are, what they are choosing for senior year, that is a good balanced rigor for them, as well as meeting what their next step goals might be. Depending on where they see themselves after graduation, we want to make sure that senior schedule is not only meeting graduation requirements, but it's preparing them for the next step. As I said, all those schedules for our junior conferences will be posted in Canvas, and some of them have already received an email for their actual schedule. So we solidify that plan. We have a lot of things we'll share with them, and we continue to do so. There are a lot of resources on this link, College and Career Exploration, that I encourage you to come back to, spend some time with. And as I said, some of this may not be right in front of their mind, and they may be thinking about it right today, but know that you have that opportunity to come back to this. Maybe it's in June, maybe it's in August or May, whenever that may be, they start to begin that process and thinking, and you have some time to kind of really have that conversation with them. Come back to this and use some of these links. We do have a career center. It is there is only one at the park. It is housed actually at Canton High School. Maggie Stiles runs that career center. She does a phenomenal job. She is one that is in charge of all of our programming and all of our events. And I'll talk about a great opportunity coming in just a couple of days that she's planned. But I encourage kids to come see her. She is not there first hour because she works in our media center during that hour, but she's accessible for the rest of the day. So if you have questions or kids want to find out do a personality trait or do a career interest inventory or kind of connect with a school, they haven't seen this college come to visit and they're really interested, Maggie will really problem solve with them and figure out, make those contacts and kind of get that all set up for them. So I encourage the kids as well as yourself to reach out. She's really a great help and support for our kids. In April, coming up will be the SAT for our students that are here at the park. Those students will need to be taking the SAT exam along with work keys. That schedule has not come out as of yet, but I'm expecting that we'll hear about it in the next couple of weeks. So expect the testing will occur right after spring break. So it's definitely something that can kids prepare for it? Sure, they can take prep classes. I encourage to go online to any of the prep opportunities. Khan Academy does a great job of giving you some ideas about the exam and what it's looking like and what to expect in taking the exam. Now, we only offer the SAT at the park. That is the state exam that is available. The SAT is offered on multiple Saturdays throughout the school year. So if a student were interested in retaking the test or looking to take it this June, I would encourage them to go on College Board and look for a test date that they could set up, sign up, and get a location that's fairly close to us and be able to take the test a second time if they're interested. I will say that most of our students, as we know, anytime you take something a second time, we do see that kids do tend to do better. It could be 1 to 2 points. It could be 10 to 50 points. It kind of depends on the situation and what preparation that they do in between. But we know sometimes when they take an exam the first time, it's really all just about learning the expectations, what kind of problems there are, what level are we going to be expected to be tested on, and the timing. So getting through it the first time is great, but being able to take it a second time and now knowing, okay, I ran out of time in the math section, I need to speed up my process, or I need to make sure that I spend a little more time in the English section where I can have more time and read and really make sure I'm getting those right answers in there. The SAT is not, or ACT, excuse me, ACT is not a test that we do at the high school, but that test is offered on Saturdays. So I encourage that if a kid feels like maybe that would be a better test for me. It is slightly different. I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, they are much more aligned with each other. They tend to test the same way. Their scoring is definitely different, but it is both are exams that are used for college entrance. So it may be something that if a date works better for your child to take it on this Saturday because it's an ACT, that would be absolutely fine for them to do. So we've now kind of talked about their schedule. We've talked about their testing. And now we're kind of moving towards that process of whether it's scholarships or career or job workforce as we move into the fall or into the summertime. Going back to Mrs. Stives, who's in the Career Center, is doing a great job. She recently had a conference or a workshop on writing a resume. So she'll do a couple more of those as we move through this spring. I would encourage kids to sign up for that. She sends a newsletter out at the end of every week. If you're not on that list, please do get signed up for that. She's got a lot of helpful information and great wealth of information to share. But she'll have these meetings where the kids can come in and talk about how to develop a resume and get that prepared for whether it's going into the job and getting a job right now this summer and kind of preparing for maybe in the future. The other thing students can start to look at, and we'll talk about in their junior conference, is letters of recommendation. Now, all the counselors do have a position where we do write letters of recommendation for our college applications when the kids do Common App. That's one of the roles and the responsibilities that we have. But I would tell you that for a student to be looking at a scholarship or other college applications, they really want to consider a letter of recommendation from a core teacher, math, science, English, or social studies, and more importantly, a subject in which they see themselves in the career field. If they see themselves doing something in writing, in journalism, I wouldn't necessarily want them to do a science recommendation letter, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just would be a better, more supportive situation if they had an English teacher write it. But again, looking out and kind of thinking about the teachers they've had, it's a great opportunity now to have that conversation and to connect with those teachers. Writing this resume is really helpful because sometimes what the teachers will ask for is, can you give me a resume? Some of our kids that as they're juniors, they had a American Lit and writing teacher that they absolutely loved. They connected with, they really did well in the class. They really thrived. They were a great participant. And they had this connection with that teacher that they would be a great person to write a letter of recommendation. But that teacher was half a year ago, and they don't know what else your child's been involved in. So writing a resume could really give them a way to kind of share what they've been doing and what they've been up to since they left that class, and really make sure that that teacher has the tools and the information to share that really is going to meet with that kid and set them up for a really great recommendation letter. The other person that might be a good possibility, and I tell kids, is that you might want to look to your parents. If do you have a family friend? Now we can't do family. We can't do an aunt and uncle, but we could do maybe your college roommate. If you have somebody that has been an amazing part of your family or has known your child since they were born and seen them grow up to be this amazing individual, or it could be a neighbor. It could be a neighbor that you've had for a long time that your son or daughter has really connected with, and they've seen how wonderful your kid has become. They would be a great person to write a recommendation letter. So having an academic recommendation letter and a characteristic recommendation letter would be great. Those would be two places I would begin that process. So we've got a schedule already. We're taking that SAT or ACT and getting those scores. We've created a resume to share with teachers to write letters of recommendation. And those letters of recommendation could be used for college applications in the fall. They could be used for scholarships. A lot of time when kids ask teachers to write a letter of recommendation, which they'll be doing that this spring, the teacher will say, if you need it for something else, just let me know and I can just tweak it and change it a little bit and then make sure you have it that it meets whatever you're kind of applying to. The last part on here is financial aid, and I'm going to talk about that again, but there's a lot of opportunities. These are great links to get you kind of connected to that and know that there's always support and trying to make sure that we can help pay for college and find some ways to make that cost a little bit less. The other thing that comes out about is the summer timeline as we talk about programs and what kids are doing in the summer. Sometimes kids will talk about they're going to take a summer school class. And I ask them, why would you take that summer school class when the other opportunities you might have are in the workforce, going to a camp, a program that is offered by the college you hope to attend, something that is career-based, that really connects you with your career and gives you an experience or exposure to know, is that really the direction I want to go to? But it's also the time for you to make those visits. We really encourage you to walk on campus. If you can, even if possible, walk on the campus, have an experience. I'll tell you that if a kid doesn't have any idea, I would tell you, number one, go to Schoolcraft or Washtenaw, walk the campus. Yeah, it's a 2-year community college. We'll talk about that, how that may impact your world. But that would be a great place to start. And if really, go to Eastern Michigan University. It's close. You could do it in an easy afternoon. It's a great opportunity. It's a nice size. It's definitely in the middle road of size of campuses. So there definitely are college campuses that are much larger, like University of Michigan or Michigan State. And there's also some very smaller private schools, Siena Heights, Albion, Alma. Those are schools that are different. But with Eastern being right around the corner from us, it's a great opportunity for you to walk on campus and get that experience, get an idea of what it's like to be on campus. I think sometimes what happens is that having at least those 2 visits, your son or daughter will walk away with, oh, now I know what I'm really looking for, or I liked that and I didn't like this. So it really starts to open their perspective and what their possibilities are. If you're around for spring break, that's a great time to visit. We'll always encourage people to go to visit campuses when they are in session. So you definitely want to check to see when schools have their spring break, and most colleges are in that process now. So they should be in session by the last week of March. But if you decide to go in the summertime, make sure you're looking to know when their spring and summer sessions are, to make sure that you're not catching it when there's a break. I really think it's important for the kids to be on campus when there are other students and to get that feel and to really kind of know, is it feeling like home and a restful place and a place they can see themselves in the future. It's a great time if kids are interested in the military to meet with a military rep with you by their side, to ask specific questions, to kind of really guide through that process and make sure that you're kind of considering those possibilities. Trade programs are the same, but they might have some programs to visit or to take some shadow days and spend some time this summer and kind of investigate more if that's the direction you see yourself going. There's some great opportunities, and I would tell you those trade programs in many ways are now in our community colleges. So it might be a great place for you to start with that as well. You want to continue the research of, as you visit colleges and you visit trade programs and check out the military, whatever your path may be, always reevaluating where you see your career kind of going. So we want to continue that research, and we'll talk more about that as they move into that senior year. The next is college essays. So most of our students do apply to college or universities. About 95% of our students go to college, if not higher, whether it's a 2-year, 4-year, some take a year off, but then end up going to college. So it is a focus just because of so many kids, and we want to support them. And we'll also support in the other areas. But in the college application process, most of our students will apply using the common application. And it's an actual application that's just common for many colleges and universities, meaning they're going to go and do one application, and it's going to go to a lot of schools. And in that are these essays. They require essays. So myself, along with one of our English teachers at Canton, Mr. Blakesley, and Mr. Forsland, who is a wealth of knowledge about acceptance and statistics about getting accepted to colleges and all of that information. We have a college essay prep class on Monday, June 2nd. So this is a ways to go, but it's definitely something to put on your calendar and make your kid aware of that. We have a really good opportunity to sit down with the kids, talk about what essays are going to be on the applications, get them some kind of focus and direction of where they might be heading, getting kind of some essays started, kind of beginning that process of getting some ideas down in a document, on paper, however they process and work through it. Majority of our students do spend quite a bit of time during the summertime working on their college essays. We do encourage them to have it peer edited, whether it's by a parent or whether it's by a trusted friend or trusted another adult. In the fall, they can check with an English teacher, or even before they leave, they could check to see if there's a teacher, whether it's an English teacher, social studies, any subject matter that feels confident reading their essays. They definitely will give some opinion. And for kids that do attend the college essay, Mr. Blakesley has said he's always willing to also review some essays and help kids out. So we'll help them through that process and get them started on that. And as I said, while you're visiting those colleges and getting those opportunities, summer school may not be the right place for you to spend your time. And it might be about employment. It might be about volunteering. It might be kind of building your other resume of getting some experience out there, getting some responsibility, some leadership, some exposure to whether it's just really giving back to our community, but also giving an experience to know, is this kind of a career path? Is this something that I'm enjoying? Am I like doing this role or being involved in this program? And we want to make sure as many experiences they can have really help and support them going forward. So as I said, our resources are our biggest part. We want to make sure the kids are exploring and finding out more information. So here is another wealth of information. As I said, we've got a lot on here. So when you're ready and your child's ready to really sit down and kind of start perusing through some of this, I encourage you to come back to these links and kind of look through these. The College Board has a program called Big Future. I think it's a great opportunity for you to go in on Big Future. You create an account free, but what you're doing is you have the opportunity to say, I know I want to go to a small school. Let's say your student is saying, you know, the park's been great. I've loved it. It's been a great experience, but I'd like to go to a college the same size or maybe even smaller, or just vice versa. I've liked the park, but I want big. I want a lot bigger. And so you go in, the kids pull up their account. They say, what size school? What area do they want that school to be located in? They might say, I'm thinking about maybe psychology, or I'm thinking about criminal justice, or I'm undecided. But they know it wants to have athletics. They want athletics to be a part. They might decide they also want it to be Greek life to be part of that. So there's a lot of ways that they can get some filters on it, and it will give them their kind of results. What's nice about Big Future is it gives those results, which then give you direct connection right to their links. So it sends you right to that college, right to give you some more information specifically about that school. And again, anytime you can start to make those pros and cons, those comparisons with schools, helps the kids decipher if they're headed in the right direction, or check this one off, or maybe add this one to their list to consider maybe a visit this coming summer. There's some additional ones on here, including HBCU colleges. There's a common Black application students fill out. There are 2 different ones, so we want to make sure kids know about that. And then also making sure that they're kind of exploring those other options if they're interested in a trade program or military. Now, we try to get them to visit quite a bit throughout the springtime. The military does come on campus, but again, it's a nice conversation to meet with a recruiter with your student with you to kind of have that discussion about what the pros and cons are. There's a great deal of information to be shared from the military about education. So it's definitely something in a pathway many of our students have had an opportunity to gain an education through that process and being involved in it. In the fall, a lot of our kids will start to look at scholarships. But I will tell you, if you have an opportunity to sit down now and go through the scholarships that we have on our school website, it really would help you to get an idea of what's out there. Majority of our scholarships are repetitive, meaning they're come back again every year. So the Wilcox is a great example. Wilcox has continually supported this community and done a wonderful job with scholarships. It's usually something where the students are to write a Plymouth historical perspective, something about either it's a building or a time period where they write an essay. Wilcox has always been a great advocate for our students in moving forward and giving scholarships. And one of the great things is you could submit a scholarship for the Wilcox Foundation, and one student is randomly drawn and earns, I think it's $500. So just by simply applying gives you an opportunity to win some money. Every scholarship is slightly different. So I'd encourage you to kind of look through and see how they set them up and how you get the money. Some schools or some programs will give you the money directly, and some will send it right to the college. So it kind of depends on how maybe their foundation or their grant or their system is set up. But it's in that scholarship information. So I encourage you to kind of peruse through that. And as I said, what you're doing is setting yourself up to kind of get an idea of come fall when they start showing up. And usually around mid-October, we start to see them posted on our website. And then you can start applying. Students can start working on those. And one thing I think is the kids that have been the most successful are the ones that really look ahead. They're the ones that sit down and they might be saying, like today, saying, well, I am going to be around for spring break. No, do I want to be doing schoolwork the whole week? I need to take a break, and absolutely agree. But maybe they take a morning and spend some time and realizing there's some scholarships that are going to be due in April. And that's what they work on over spring break. So if they kind of set that opportunity up to look ahead of what's going to be, what deadlines are coming up, they're able to work on that, get some of that done. They could even spend some time this Wednesday, actually, since they'll be home. So it's something for them to look ahead and get some ideas. There's some other links on here as well. The thing that I would definitely tell you is never pay for a scholarship. Scholarships are out there for you to get the money. Anytime that you're going to be actually paying someone for scholarships, they more than likely are doing a search just as much as you could do. So I encourage you to kind of do your own searches, look for those, and definitely check the school's website, because we have all the local scholarships that are the least competitive in the sense that they are students that graduate from one of our 3 or 4 high schools, and also just within this local area. The last part on here noting is the financial aid night that I said I'd come back to. Financial aid might be a really important night, more so than ever before. For students to go to community college for free, they do need to submit a FAFSA. They need to fill out the FAFSA in the fall as they move towards that end of the senior year into college. So if a student's considering of going to a community college or taking advantage of that, we want to make sure that they're aware of how to do the FAFSA, how to complete it. We will have a night in the fall early, and where it gives an opportunity where we'll give some explanation and then also give you some time to be on the computer and actually log in, create your account, and get started in that process. Overall, completing a FAFSA form nowadays is usually might take you less than 45 minutes. 30 to 45 minutes is an average time for families to fill it out, get it submitted, and then be able to wait to see what the answers might be. So as we've said, or as I've said, there's a lot of opportunities for students to kind of explore. Here's a few more. We want to make sure we're hitting every possible one. Zello is career cruising is kind of what was used to be called, or kind of what we referred to, but Zillow is a great spot to go to. And the third one down is My Next Move. Those two are really great if your student really has no idea of what they want to do. I really liked it when we used to do the ACT. If your student signs up for the ACT, there's a wealth of interest inventory questions they do. And that's exactly what Zello and My Next Move can do. They do an interest inventory to really find out what their career pathway is. It gives them kind of an idea, and it's simple questions. Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work on a computer? Because it's really something impactful they don't realize. It's always very interesting. We do Zello and My Next Move with our 10th graders. So your son or daughter may remember doing this last year, but we do that with them where they get to explore and get to figure out, and it shoots out this list of like 8 to 10 career paths they might follow. And sometimes they're like, oh no, I would never do that. But we always tell them to pause a minute and think about, well, why did that come up? Yeah, it may not be your career path. It may be something you have a hobby. It may be something that there's a portion of it in some capacity, that job. So just kind of go in with an open mind. But again, we want the kids to explore just to see all the opportunities that are there. And as I said, right down at the bottom is that P-CEP Career Center, and with Mrs. Stiles, who will be able to kind of help and direct. But again, she has a wealth of information on her website. So now that we're looking at kind of the junior year, we've done that career or course selection. We've made sure they've got the right classes. We are moving them into that springtime where they're getting ready for the SAT to take the test and do well on that. And as they're finishing off, we're going to do essays and prepare for those college applications. And we begin the senior year. So summer has gone. Ooh, that's sad. And this is where we get started. So one thing to know is we're not leaving you after tonight. We will be back with you again. We have a senior parent night. It's at 5 p.m. It is at the Salem Auditorium for all parents at the park for students with seniors. So we will be at 5 p.m. at the Plymouth or the Salem Auditorium. And that will be our senior night. We'll talk specifically about now what are those next steps. We'll review what we've talked about tonight, as well as really hone in on the senior meetings that we have, the college application process, and those direct next steps that need to kind of get fulfilled. We meet with the kids as we did with our juniors. We meet with them one-on-one. With our seniors, we meet with them in small groups. We meet with them to talk about their college applications, get them started. We do some breakout sessions. So we make sure that the kids know how to start the application. We talk to them about parchment, which we'll come to in a minute, that talks about transcripts. And we also talk again about that career pathway process. Those are 3 key parts to make everything fit together for it to be a success. And we want to make sure that we meet with them as soon as possible. And so we meet with them in early September. As we move into the fall, college and military reps are coming. They visit our campus. October and November are probably the bulk of our colleges that visit. Some of them will do visits in the springtime, especially if we're asking. But we want to make sure that the kids come in and listen to the representatives. we definitely want them to have that conversation. Definitely for the small schools, that's the representative that most likely will look at your student's college application. We want to make sure that there's a relationship there. We want to make sure they've had a chance to ask specific questions. And as much as many students will say, oh, well, I went and visited at my friends at CMU and I stayed the weekend and they showed me all around it. And it was really great. And then I went to MSU and it was really great. But what's really important for them to have is this knowledge from those representatives. These representatives are the ones that are going to know in the next 3 to 5 years, we're building a new program that's on education, or we're renovating our science building and we're moving in towards broadcasting. Or so it's really those representatives give you the new and upcoming information, whether there's going to be a new dorm or there's new policy. So we want to make sure that those representatives are somebody that those kids meet with, especially their top couple of schools they're considering of attending. If for some reason we don't have that college in our list, you don't see them in our visits list, please come in and see Mrs. Stiles. Let Mrs. Stiles know what school you're interested in, what one you would like to attend or really would like to learn more about, and she'll reach out to those representatives and see if she can get them in here for a visit. And we're more than happy to try and encourage that and get them on campus. And as I said before, you're going to kind of look and see what's going to look like for those scholarships, but come fall, that's when you want to be on top of that. So by the fall, you want to have those recommendation letters. You want to have that from a core teacher and a character reference to kind of talk about yourself, whether it's used for college applications and many times can also be used for scholarships. As I've said, we do post local scholarships, but we'll also post state and university scholarships. Most university scholarships that are specific might be only guaranteed once you've applied and they have seen your grades or seen the criteria you meet, and you automatically earn that scholarship. Where that it might be a situation where anybody that qualifies gets the scholarship, not just a first, second, or third place person. So again, we do post a lot of those different ones on our website. We want to make sure the kids have all access to everything. And as I said, we want to make sure that you're always informed. We do have a Canvas page that our students have access to. We want to make sure that they continue to kind of refer back to that and review. It does have directions on how to do college applications. It does have the directions on Parchment. It does have those links to scholarships. So we want to make sure that they always have the access to the material when they're ready for it and when they want to get it completed. So as I said before, the college application process, and as I said, majority of our students do apply to a 2 or 4 year college. A 2-year college, the application is quite simple. It's pretty basic, and with your basic information, it can be done just in one sitting. But an application that goes on to a university definitely can take some more time and more thought processing, and maybe you need to save it and come back to it and complete it. There are 2 kinds of applications we talk about with the kids. A straight school application, I mean, I go to Eastern Michigan University's website and I fill out Eastern Michigan University's application and I submit it to Eastern Michigan University. Then there's that application I talked about called the Common Application. You go to the Common Application website, you create an account, you choose your schools, you fill out all your parts, and once you're to that point where you've filled in some schools, you'll also fill in who you're going to ask for recommendations. Now, as I said, it's going to many different schools. So you could decide to do a straight school application, but you might want to make sure is what schools are you going to apply to? Do they all fall with a common app? You may just need to do one or choose to do one. But in that common app, once students have created that account, filled in their information, including some schools, at least one, they'll go to a part that talks about recommenders and FERPA. So we recommend kids release and waive their rights to see their applications. It gives more validity to their application and make sure that there's truly an honest perspective being shared. And I would tell you that 100% over that every counselor will do everything they can to write something positive, encouraging, supportive for your kid. And I'll tell you how we kind of come up with that as well, beyond just our relationship with the kids. But that's an important step. So August 1st, the application opens. And I do tell my students, August 1st, you're going to want to go in, create your account, and get me on your list, because then I do them as I receive them. So we start getting the kids can work on those. They've been working on their essays. They can start considering submitting their essays, but we want to make sure they've had them peer edited. but they'll apply online for those applications. And we always encourage our students to try and get the majority of their top schools or their applications completed by the end of October. The reason being is most schools, while they may have continual enrollment and ongoing enrollment, we know that the students that get their applications within those first couple of months have the most high or the highest probability of being accepted and being in that first wave of acceptance. So we want to make sure our kids are really in that first wave. So they'll complete their college application process. Step 2 is that transcript. So we'll go over this with the kids in their senior meetings, and they're actually going to be doing this this Thursday with us. But they're going to create their account, and one thing they're going to do is they're going to request their transcripts. So this is the same process they will use starting this week throughout any time they need a transcript from the high school. This could be 30 years down the road, believe it or not, 4 years down the road, or in about 2 weeks or 2 months from now. But they go to Parchment. It's a website where they go to. They create an account. We'll give them a code to start the process, and they request their transcript. Now, let me go back to the college or the applications. If I submit an application directly to Eastern Michigan University, where I went to their website and did their application and submitted it there, I'm going to request my transcript to go to Eastern Michigan University directly. If I go to do the common application, I'm going to send my transcript to the common app because it needs to attach to that one, because then it gets shared to many universities. An example, most of our students, ones that are applying to the University of Michigan and Michigan State, will use the common app, but they need to send their transcript to common app, not the Big Ten schools. That's where that application has to have that transcript, because that's our part and that's what connects us and gives us access to submit. We'll remind the kids, but that seems to be one of the catches sometimes. And we'll remind the kids ongoing to make sure that they get that done. The last step in the college application process is that test score. This one's definitely a different one, and it continues to evolve. When kids have done their test scores, first of all, when kids take it, the SAT in April, we recommend that they send their scores. Right now, colleges are not going to use those scores until you've applied to those schools. A college will always take your highest score. There are some schools that will actually super score, which means if you take an SAT test more than once, that school that does a super score will pull components from each of those scores to give you a brand new composite. They want you to have the highest score possible. The part that kind of keeps going kind of back and forth, ebb and flow, is whether they require test scores. Every university has drastically changed their path in the last couple of years. Since we left COVID, that has drastically changed. I will say that I'm starting to see more schools that are saying they're going to require test scores. It's probably to give them a better perspective of comparison of kids throughout the United States and the world, and that they need those test scores to give some perspective. So it's definitely something that we're starting to see evolve. But again, every school is different. So I encourage you to check their website. Again, the kids can go to the representatives and ask them specifically what's their perspective about sending in test scores, and make sure they're making the right decision for themselves and what that school is requesting. Letters of recommendation, as I said, if you're applying to Eastern Michigan University, you don't need any essays. You don't need any recommendation letters. You're doing a straight school application, and it's pretty simple right from there. But if you do that common app, as you add your counselor as a recommender, you'll add those teachers on as recommenders, and we each get separate emails. We upload our recommendation letters and submit it through that way. So that's something we want to consider. And again, we'll still continue to encourage our students to try and get them all in by October 31st. But here's an example. Perfect kid goes down Thanksgiving, goes down to Kentucky, has the opportunity to go see the University of Kentucky, and falls in love with the place. Thinks it's the best school ever. This is really where they want to go. What do I do? It's way past the deadline. Apply. Absolutely. Any school that comes out of the woodwork that you never even realized was there and really you feel like is the better fit for you, then apply. And I would tell you, if you're really questioning whether you'll get accepted, reach out to the admissions office and connect with that recruiter or that representative to find out. Let them know how you applied now and didn't apply in September. Make sure that they're aware of it. It really is important to you. You want to make sure you make that effort. But again, we want the kids to actually apply by October 31st, because then we know they can really change their focus to whether it's their classes during the school day, adding on scholarships. We want that focus to kind of move forward for them. So as we kind of go through this, it's really important to kind of just have those conversations, those continual conversations. And one thing that we know is the kids will always have just kind of a different perspective. They definitely go at it very differently than you may have. So you've got to go in with an open mind, seeing what they're ready to share. I would encourage you to share your experience, because how you came to where you are in a career path or what you're doing at this point might also help them or give them an idea of what they could do and how they kind of begin that process. As we said, there's a lot that goes on with the financial aid and planning for this. College is not an inexpensive opportunity, but there are ways for you to really reduce that cost. There's a lot of, might give you some time to search through it or get connected with some of these links. Any financial aid office is really supportive and helpful. If you have questions, I encourage you to reach out to a financial aid office, whether it's Schoolcraft or Washtenaw. And I picked them just because they're close to us. And Schoolcraft more specifically is our community college. But we will make sure that we have an opportunity for them to come on campus and to also be able to share their information of financial planning and being able to go through this process. But the more you have those conversations and continual conversations really will give a great opportunity. And I encourage you, if your kid's really questioning and not sure where they're headed, or they really are kind of not oblivious of where to start, maybe, definitely send them our way. We want to have those conversations with our kids. We have a lot of really good insight that we can share with them. And sometimes it's a matter that they come to us and we can go through that process with them. So we want to share that for sure. So as I kind of alluded to before, there are some great opportunities that Maggie Stice has set up for our kids. And one of them is a college and career night. It is this Wednesday. Yes, we don't have school on Wednesday. This has been set up much sooner than the March 5th, changing to a PD day where staff is in, but students are at home. But hopefully your kids can rest up, get themselves prepared, and ready to come back for a great college night. It's going to be held at Canton High School this year. I really encourage you to come with your kids, or at least your kids to come with a couple of friends. Plan to spend the time. Walk and talk with any and more representatives. There might be schools you've never heard of. As I said before, open your eyes, be aware of those possibilities, gather some materials, and then they're going to come home with all this stuff. Find a box and put it in. Just keep it for a little while. Keep it until they're really ready to sit down and kind of look through the information, read through what they've shared, what's some new information they have. Is it they're a great engineering school? Did they just win awards in journalism? So we want to make sure that they gather this information, talk to the representatives, become aware of all the possibilities that are out there, and then take it with them to be able to really, when they're ready for it, and have that conversation with them, is what do they want to go through? Is there a career path they found? Is there a college they really got connected to? So again, I encourage you to come back this Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. again at Canton High School. A lot of information will be there. You can scan this code. This information is also on our school's website. Mrs. Stice, or Maggie Stice, has shared this in her newsletter, and I'm sure it would be right there on our school's website to gather that and get that information. A reminder about that essay workshop coming in June. I'll send out a Google form for kids to sign up. We do it about 3 to 4 hours class periods throughout that day to make sure that there's a lot of opportunities for kids. It could fill up. If it does, we'll kind of continue to make adjustments, and we want to definitely make sure that we can get as many kids in as possible to share and make sure that they're ready and prepared to create the best college essays possible. So we know that it's really important for our kids to stay connected and stay informed. If you have not been on our school's website recently, I encourage you to get a look. It's really looking great. It's a brand new program or brand new platform, much more user-friendly, accessible to families to get information. And also know that there are Canvas pages for each one of the counseling offices. We are very succinct in making sure that we're all sharing the same information. We want to make sure kids have all the information that they need. And again, this is accessible for them to be able to share with you and show the presentation information from last year. And as I said, directions to college application process, directions to parchment, making sure that, you have that when you're ready to sit down and send out your transcripts to a couple of schools in the fall. We want to make sure that you have those directions to kind of follow through. There's a junior page that will also have access to all students and parents. So we want to make sure that you can come back to that and make sure that you have all your answers or can kind of get to that information when you need it. At this time, we're going to open it up for questions. Some of you have maybe put these in the chat with on the Zoom. So please, by all means, if you have a question, you're welcome to share that tonight. Our first question is, do you need to register for the SAT that's at the park? No. All juniors are required to take it. It's actually a graduation requirement to take the SAT. So we do want to make sure that our students are present and accounted for in April. That is a free test for all of our students, juniors, to take and to be able to send to schools. That is an important step in their moving forward. All these links, this presentation, the slides themselves will be on our Canvas page, as well as being shared not only in recording, but also in presentation slides. So you can access the links that we shared tonight as well. In the fall, one question is about senior parent night. Usually the first Thursday of the school year is open house, and the senior parent night is the hour before. So we start at 5 o'clock in the Salem Auditorium for all students, all seniors, Canton, Plymouth, and Salem. We are in the Salem Auditorium, and we have presenters that will be talking and preparing you for the senior year. And again, it's right before open house, and then you can continue on and see where all of that is. There is a link in one of the slides. I'm trying to think of where it was. Back, it was at the bottom, and it said college and military visits. It is through the Career Center. So if you are looking for when a college or a military branch is visiting campus, you would go to that list, and Mrs. Stiles continues to update that. Right now, there may not be too many on there, but we definitely want to make sure that we're filling anybody's request as possible. But again, that list will be continually be updated. And as I said before, if there's a school you're interested in that you don't see that's on the list and you're looking to go to the University of Arizona, absolutely come in and see Mrs. Stiles, let her reach out to the rep, see if we can get them, if they're going to be in town, if they're going to be doing a visit, that they can come on campus, or if they're even in the area. Sometimes some of the schools that are out of state will do kind of a presentation at a local area for many high schools to attend, but she has that information or can access that information. So I encourage you, if you're considering going out of state to a college and want to get a college visit, or at least connect with that representative, come see Mrs. Stiles. She'd be more than happy to kind of investigate and see if she can get them on campus, because I'm sure you're not the only one that might be interested. Would love an overall timeline, like what needs to be done this summer, have letters of rec by fall, etc. Oh, okay. I mean, there's a little bit in there, but I would agree it's not like check, check, check. And if you're a person that likes that check off list, I could see that being an advantage. I'll reach out to our senior people or junior people. That may be something we could easily kind of incorporate. What we'll probably do is just give you maybe a cleaner list if that's what you're looking for. We'd be happy to share that, and we'll connect it to this presentation so you can come back to this presentation and we'll have that timeline for you. But we'll also share a timeline in the fall, as I said, but we'll get something out as we move to that the end of the spring and this junior year. So one question is about that transcript. So this kind of seems the one that gets caught up sometimes. If kids are applying to 10 schools, which is a lot, and mind you, that's a lot of money to pay for 10 schools, but that's a possibility. The more you research, you might be able to hone that or kind of narrow that list down. But let's say you apply to 10 schools. If 6 of them are in the Common App, you only need 1 transcript to go to Common App. None of those schools will take your transcript. So many times what happens is if a student, perfect example, if a student requests their transcript to Common App and then request their transcript to the University of Michigan, we'll delete the University of Michigan. University of Michigan only takes the Common App, so we know they have to go to that transcript needs to go to the Common App. So we do want to make sure that kids are sending their transcript to where it needs to go. So if a student is doing the Common App and that school is on that list, that's the only transcript they need to do. They do not need to send a transcript to all those individual schools. But if you were to apply to Eastern, to Western, to Central Michigan University, to Alma, to Albion or Hope, that you would need, and you're doing their application on their website and submitting it to them, you would need to send your transcript to that school. Hopefully that helps to clarify. Please know that it is a little confusing, and we'll continue to share that with the kids. We are meeting with them on this Thursday. It is in the morning with all of our juniors. First, second, and third hour, it is broken down by alphabet, and we will make sure that we are going through this same information, but in that meeting, we're going to make sure the kids all create their Parchment account. So while we're going to be talking about their next step, which is meeting with their counselors next week for their junior conference, we're going to specifically have them create that Parchment account if they have not done so already. There are some students that have already created them because they needed it for different events or different activities they're involved in, but everybody else will be creating their Parchment account so they have access to it, so they can start that process as soon as we move into the fall. No transcripts need to be requested now. It really is waiting until we start doing those college applications. When you take the SAT test or ACT, whether you take it in school or on a Saturday, it is your choice whether you send your scores. You may choose not to send your scores. You feel better waiting until you get your results back and then send them. The difference is when you register to take the exams, you are given 4 to 5 free test score sends. If you wait until your scores come back, you'll have to pay for them. And you do have to pay for an SAT or an ACT score to be sent to each school if you didn't do it in the initial. So it is something to be aware of. The price has been under $20 in the past, but I do know that changes from time to time. So just be aware that there could be a cost. If you don't send your scores when you register initially for the exam, which you will kind of fill out the registration even while you're doing it at the high school and take advantage of those free test score sends, you will have to pay for those when you're ready. And when you do, you can choose which ones you want to send. So you do want to also know what school or college will super score. Because if there's a school that super scores, you may want to send both of your scores that you took or both of the exam scores that you took. One thing about senior meetings, the question is about NCAA requirements, and check to make sure they're on track for NCAA as well. We don't cover it at that time. In the past, I've held an NCAA or an NAIA night, but I've been trying to find a rep that would kind of meet both levels, the NAI and the NCAA. And if I can find somebody that can either do a Zoom or in-person meeting, we'll do that in the fall. I'll be looking for someone in the coming weeks to see if I can find someone to get that set up for, and we'll make sure that everybody's notified. But also know that students that follow our graduation requirements, following ours should set them up to be eligible for Division I. We do encourage kids to look on the NCAA website, follow Division I to make sure that they're meeting those. You also have access on the NCAA website on the clearinghouse to know which classes or which courses do qualify. Majority of our classes in our course catalog note that as part of the description. So I encourage you to go to our school's website and search course catalog, the 25-26. It's out now. That course catalog would be the descriptions in there should tell you if they're NCAA approved. Most of our core classes do fall in that. There are some that don't, so it is important for you to research that. But NCAA's clearinghouse, you can look at a list of all of our approved courses. Students are more than willing, or more than any time, can go ahead and sign up for an appointment with their counselor, and they can walk them through some of those steps. But we encourage you as a family to register with NCAA, get that information of what you need to go over. Now that the kids will have access to their transcripts, they could easily get a self view of their transcript and be able to kind of count up those credits and figure out where they stand for NCAA. What are the dates for seniors' last day in graduation? I'm not positive, and right now I would say it's up in the air. There is some discussion about when our start date is for the fall, just mainly because Labor Day is extremely late this year. So I think that may could possibly change when we actually start school. That could also shift our graduation and seniors' last day. But more than typically, it's the end of May is when the seniors' last day is, and graduation is a week and a half following. So usually that weekend before we actually finish school gives you kind of a parameter. This year, graduation is on June 8th, and we end school on June 11th. So, and our seniors' last day is May 29th this year. So that could give you kind of at least an idea of where you're at. If a student wants to go to Schoolcraft, I would tell you the only thing they need to do is fill out the FAFSA, because that's going to give you that student guarantee loan, where in which you're not going to have to pay for the community college coursework. And second, it is a straight Schoolcraft application. There's no essays, there's no recommendation letters needed. It is probably maybe takes you 20 minutes, and it really is name, address, some basic information. I would encourage kids to take a visit at Schoolcraft to get some perspective of expectations, programming, what are available. The community college, Schoolcraft is considered our community college. It's in our community, so it is the best in pricing. But Washtenaw, if you are somebody that lives in South Canton, I would tell you definitely Washtenaw is a great school as well. But again, there's also Henry Ford, there's Oakland. So there's a number of community colleges that are available. So definitely kind of search out, just as we would tell you to any university or any colleges, find some place where their programming is appropriate and what kind of is guiding you towards that. But you definitely want to make sure that you complete the FAFSA, and you want to do that in the fall. You're not eligible to do that at this point in time. The FAFSA that is out currently are students that will be freshmen in college next year. So the FAFSA will reopen in the fall. This year it opened in December for this year's seniors. So I would expect it around that same time. So your students will not be able to create an account or apply for FAFSA until December, I'm guessing, of 2025. But again, you need to apply so that you have that guarantee for the community college payments. Okay. I think I'm going to sneeze. Anybody else? Any other questions? I think we've answered quite a bit. I really appreciate those of you who have asked questions. We want to make sure that we can get any kind of educating out there for you. We know that this is an exciting time. It can also be an overwhelming time. So we are there for you. We are there for the students. We are excited to be meeting with them on Thursday. First hour is where it starts with, I believe it's A through F-ish. I'm sorry, I don't know that off the hand. Somebody will probably share that with me in a minute. But we have first, second, and third hour. If for some reason your student is dual enrolled first hour, have them come to second hour. We want them to be there, whether it's first, second, or third. We want to make sure we touch point with every one of our juniors on Thursday to make sure that they kind of know this information, the process of how junior conferences are going to work in the coming weeks, and as well as make sure that every kid is able to create and start that Parchment account. We want to make sure that they've got all the tools necessary to be successful in applying to colleges. Yes, Wednesday night is the college fair and career and college fair at 6 to 8, Canton High School. We do want you to, there's a QR code there on the presentation, and I'm sure that slide is also available. It's been shared out in the Career Center newsletter that comes out on Fridays, as well as on our school's website. But again, this presentation will be shared and you're able to get to that QR code. I missed, let's see, what was it? One question I'm sorry that I missed was the community college. There is no anything about financial. It is any student that is going into community college for these, they have to apply to a community college within, I believe it's 18 months to start that. And they are all eligible. All students are eligible in the state of Michigan to get community college for free after high school. So that definitely is an option, and you do need to fill out the FAFSA. That's the only criteria that right now is the responsibility to be eligible. I don't have a list of who's coming for the college night. There are some in-state and out-of-state. There's over 60 colleges, I believe, attending. I am sure that every school in the state of Michigan is attending, both public and private, big and small. And I would also expect that many of the neighboring state-connected schools. I would expect University of Chicago, because we have students that will go there. There may be a more specific list, but I know that sometimes it can change a little bit just based on, life and circumstances. But it definitely would be something to consider coming, even just to gain information from who's all there. And it's a great time for, kids. It's kind of a rite of passage for our juniors to have that opportunity. Common App, Eastern, I believe Eastern's on the Common App. I apologize. I can't remember if they are or not. You can go on Eastern's. University of Michigan is a Common App school. That's the only way you can apply. As for Eastern, if they do have the Common App, I would definitely do it through Common App if you're applying to U of M. Because if you're already doing the work for U of M, one click of the button and paying the fee that way, then you'd have everything in one place. So I definitely would encourage that for sure, if they're both an option for you. And as I said, yep, somebody gave me the dates or the breakdown. So on Thursday, first hour is letters A through G. So kids with last names A through G are in first hour. Second hour is H through O, and third hour is P through Z. But as I said, if somebody has dual enrollment first hour or is not there first hour, please come second or third hour. Sign in. We'll take attendance and make sure that you're covered. And we want to make sure that everything is all set. I have to tell you, I really appreciate all of you being here tonight. We hope that this information was really supportive. I definitely want to shout out again to my colleagues, Heather Donzilla at Plymouth, Mark Hausen at Salem, and Sarah Budziak at Canton for being here to manage and support and preparation for tonight. We hope this information is supportive and is, again, go back over it when you're ready for it, click through it, look on the links, spend some time. Encourage your kids, and if they have more questions, they'll be working with us this Thursday and then for their junior conferences beginning next week. Have a great night, everybody.